Good afternoon, everybody. My name's Mark Willis. I work as an economist in the strategy team at Bromford Flagship, and I'm really pleased to be presenting another place-based webinar. I forget what number we're up to now, maybe could be up to 6 or 7. It's great to have so many of you along this afternoon. This is all about place-based working, all about our third pilot, how it's going, how we set it up. And place-based working, for those that don't know, is part of Bromford's corporate strategy, and there's a commitment from Bromford Flagship moving forward to place-based working too. So I'm joined today by my colleagues. I've got Paul Taylor, he works in the strategy team with me. We've got some colleagues from the pilot too. We've got Steve Osmond and we've got Joe Plews, who are part of the place-based team. And hopefully we should have Rachel Coley, who is the place team leader, talk you through how today's going to run. So we're hopefully going to have about 25 minutes of presentation, hearing from the colleagues on the pilot, hearing about what's different about Moreton and Stow relative to the previous pilots that we've run, what's the place like, what are the challenges and reflections about kind of these early stages of the pilots, and kind of just a more general view, a really honest view of how it's going. And then we've also got Paul on the call, as I said, to run through some kind of bigger picture next steps for Bromford Flagship, plans on place-based working. Then we'll have 20 minutes of Q&A. This is really supposed to be a collaborative process of learning, and we'd love to know what you want to know about too. So yeah, there should be the chat function available. I can see you've all been busy introducing yourselves, which is great. Pop your questions in the chat as we go, and I'll kind of curate Q&A session as we go. Feel free to ask about anything as we go. Okay, so just really quickly, just wanted a really quick recap for maybe some of us on the call that may not be massively clued up on what is place-based working. So just really quickly, there's 3 core principles that we've got up on the screen here. It's a person-centered, bottom-up approach. What does that mean? That means that we start with the people in the place. They know what's best about their community and know what's best for the community. So to really understand them better, we should start with the people that work and live in the place. It's a rejection of a one-size-fits-all approach. Because we're listening to those in the communities, we know that those strengths and needs of those communities will be different in different places, and therefore we may need to organise ourselves differently as Bromford to kind of maximise those opportunities to improve. Number 3, it's all about pooling existing resources. Place-based working should not cost more. It's all about using existing resources and deploying them differently in the place in order to try and get a bigger bang for our buck. So a little bit about our new geography, I suppose, which is kind of all across the Midlands and East Anglia post-merger. And we've kind of got our kind of western and eastern region with a gap in the middle where this kind of white kind of map of local authorities are. So and today we're talking about Moreton-In-the-Marsh, Stow-on-the-Wold. That's the kind of the geography of our third place-based pilot. And we can kind of see where that is on the map here. So it's in the Cotswolds, in the kind of the west of our region. This is where I would love to bring in our place team leader to talk a little bit more about the pilot area itself. I wondered if I might be able to call on Steve to talk a little bit about the pilot area.
Hi, thanks for that, Mark. Nothing like jumping in at the deep end. Happy to talk about the geography. So let's, as you started there, I think. So as you say, North Cotswolds, we're focusing on 2 of the sort of areas where we have the most dense amount of stock. So my patch, which is Moreton-In-The-Marsh, and then we're going down Stow-on-the-Wold, and then we've got various villages that surround that area. So in the Cotswolds, which started off life, I guess, the stock that we've got there would have been a stock transfer from Cotswold District Council many years ago. So we've got quite a lot of stock that is older. I know Joe will talk about that a little later.
I think another point to pick up on that you just kind of mentioned there, Steve, is that because we're the kind of stock transfer HA in the area, across the Cotswold, we own about 60-70% of all the social housing as well. So we are the major stockholder there, kind of a key player, obviously, in affordable housing there. But we'd love to welcome Rachel, our place team leader for our Moreton-In-the-Marsh and Stow-on-the-Wold place team. So yeah, please introduce yourself, Rachel. Kind of what is your role as place team leader, and can you tell us a little bit about the place that you are serving?
So I don't know what's already been covered, what Steve was picking up on, but obviously this place is the North Cotswolds. The North Cotswolds, many might know as being quintessential England, picturesque, rural. It's like a really beautiful place of the world. We've got 862 homes in this particular place, and the place spans across 13 different villages. Some are kind of only a mile apart from each other, some are much further apart from one another. So comparing it to the other two pilots, one, it's more rural, but two, the general geography is much wider, it's much bigger. You know, it can take, especially with traffic and tourism, it can take up to an hour just from kind of one area of the place to another. The homes make up about half of what we've got in the North Cotswolds. I know I was just picking up that you were saying we've got about 70%. So even with the 862, we've got even more homes than that. But we've kind of tried to focus on a smaller proportion of those. In terms of, again, I think Steve was saying, so we've got some older stock that we've transferred, but we've got some newer builds as well. Predominantly social rent. Most of them are social rent. We've got some affordable rent. And then we've got little pockets of shared ownership. So that's an area that I pick up as kind of being a gap, because house prices are predominantly quite expensive in the Cotswolds. You know, whether that's because of second homes, because of the area where it is. The only shared ownership properties we've got are in Moreton and in Blockley. So even Stow-on-the-Wold, which is a big village, we haven't got any shared ownership stock there.
And just for perhaps some people from a housing background on the call, so some of the kind of different tenure types that we referenced there, social rent, shared ownership, they're all different types of product in kind of affordable housing and for different needs. So you get basically it's linked to market rents in the area, and you get different levels of discount depending on what type of tenure you have. And then you also have this kind of part ownership model where you buy a stake in the home. So maybe say 40%, 50% of the home price and discounted rent on the rest of it. That's kind of a shared ownership product. So there's a real mix of tenures. What's kind of the demographic of our customers and the people in general that kind of live in the area, Rachel?
It's a typical mixed bag, but I would say predominantly we've obviously got the families. In terms of stock type, we've got houses predominantly make up the place. We've got quite a lot of bungalows as well. We've got 2 schemes that are for homes that we provide for people over 55, and then we've got several blocks of flats. I would say, again, because of what's quite unique about this particular area is that there isn't much social mobilisation. So you can have a family home, the children move out, either stay local or move out, and then you have the occupier remaining in that larger home. But because of this sort of stock, or the limited amount of stock in the area, and it's not growing massively, so some of the villages haven't had growth for years and years, it's still very old properties, there isn't much they can do to move. So we're working and focusing in on that space to see what we can do from a proactive measure. How can we work with our customers and with our agencies, stakeholders like Cotswold District Council, to see how we can look at things a bit differently in the area to try and make the homes, suitable for the people that are living within them.
I think that's a great overview of kind of the types of properties and the place. But how well kind of connected would you say the area is to? So you say there's kind of little villages in between. How well are they connected to the hubs of Moreton and Stow, and kind of how does that fit into the wider geography of the UK? And
so the picture on the left, that's a little village. It's called Lower Swell. Again, if you can kind of look on the map on the right, you can see with the little dots, that's where our properties are. So Moreton and Stow are the bigger villages. That's where we've got more properties. We can, like Evenlode, for example, we've got 4 properties. And as you can see, they're connected, but not connected. So some are, if they're just a mile away, it's not too bad, but some don't have bus links. There's a train station in Moreton that's a good link into London and various places. But other than Moreton, it is quite isolated. For example, courts. I was speaking to a family who needed to go to the family court. It's in Gloucester, which is about an hour away, and it's 3 bus journeys away. Some of the other agencies that people need to work with, again, are Gloucester. So it is quite isolated from that perspective. And from an amenities perspective as well. So the photo on the left, that's, as I was saying, is Lower Swell. We've got 11 homes there in total, but there's no shop, no school. Again, from an amenities perspective, some of them can be quite kind of isolated. which is quite an interesting point, because when I was walking around doing like my discovery phase in the villages, I started building my own perception, and I started wondering, questioning myself, oh, I'm not sure if customers can thrive here. They've not got the services, they've not got the transport links. But then what's great about place, it changes your mindset and it makes you stop putting your perception on things and understand it from the customer voice. So I went back and started understanding the demographics of who was living in the homes, what were they saying about place, what were they saying about Bromford. And actually, they were really, really positive about the area. They were really happy. They were grateful. The satisfaction was really high there. One person actually mentioned about mental health services, acknowledged that there was a lack of that, but said for her, actually living where she was beneficial for her mental health. It basically it makes you focus on the customer voice rather than just thinking, oh, this is what I think a community needs to thrive. Actually understanding it from the customer's perspective.
It's a really powerful anecdote, I think, about how that person-centered approach can really, transform your opinions. We can have ideas, preconceived ideas, sat in an office in Tewkesbury about what's best for Moreton-In-the-Marsh or the surrounding areas kind of thing. But actually, who knows best? It's the people that live there. Let's start there, shall we? No, I think that's fantastic. That's a great overview of kind of what the area is like, people that don't know the North Cotswolds that well. Can you talk to us a little bit, Rachel, about how we've gone through this process of, setting up the team and trying to understand the area better? What's been our process of discovery?
So the discovery very much started with mapping the properties into the 13 different villages that we've got, then mapping the amenities. So what's in there? Do they have transport links? Do they have a school? Do they have, a church or a religious space? Do they have a community centre? Those sorts of things. Then it's working on layers. Then it's looking at the satisfaction, the repairs, the infrastructure, the customer voice. Then it's kind of bringing in the external agencies. So who serves that community already? Or what charities are there? What services are there? Again, what I've discovered so far about this place is actually there's a lot of very small independent kind of charities that are focused on achieving similar goals to what we are. But then the bigger kind of tickets, like your mental health services, drug and alcohol, maybe they're limited somewhat. But that makes you question, it doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing, because if maybe a bigger service isn't there, all the community already working together to build those bridges. And actually, I'm beginning to find that, yes, they are. These charities are out there. These individuals are out there who are kind of community based and wanting to fill those gaps. And then obviously with place, the other big factor is the internal collaboration. So getting views, neighbourhood coaches are on the ground. That's their role, is in and out of the homes. And obviously they know their patch and their customers very well. But what I found really interesting is actually, like Joe, our investment surveyor, knows the area really well. I can talk about a property and he knows it already. He knows kind of the infrastructure and what he needs to know. Oh, I've seen a repair that's probably been there for quite a while. And it's really encouraging people to bring all those layers together. And it's really, really powerful what layering that localized information and assets can achieve, so that you can then make decisions with, a lot of detailed, rich, accurate information that's for purpose for that community. And I think what's powerful is kind of when the place team leaders come together to talk about maybe challenges or opportunities, it's really interesting to see what's maybe different in each place and is specific to that place, and maybe what's a wider problem, and it impacts all of the different communities, whether it's rural, whether it's urban, and everything in between.
No, that's brilliant. Thank you. Just picking up on that kind of internal collaboration that you're talking about, but a lot of that's centered around like better information sharing and spending more time in the place, and therefore you get to know it a bit better, and sharing that in between colleagues. Can you talk to us a little bit about kind of the workshop that we ran to kind of help set up this pilot?
Yeah, so we did 2 workshops before we went live on the 7th of April. And it goes back to what I was saying, is that, I always thought, I could be an advocate for a customer's voice, thinking, I know that a community needs a shop or whatever it may be. And then actually already I'm discovering actually only the customer knows that. And it's similar to the internal collaboration piece. If someone had asked me 3 months ago, oh, do you know what investment do, for example? I think I would answer quickly, yeah, I've worked in housing for 15 years. Of course, I know what investment do, or what empty homes do, or the team that work with our void properties. But what the internal collaboration piece has done is actually make us fully understand it from their perspective, understand, their challenges, their opportunities, and then bringing a better understanding direct from each team has been really kind of useful. When we all got together in that collaboration piece in the workshop, it was interesting to see how many people were saying, oh, I didn't actually realise that, or I didn't realise that was the process, or that's been really, really useful. And again, it's just getting to know each other. So when you get stuck or hit a hurdle or find that something's gone into a black hole, instantly a contact who can just move things through the system that much quicker.
And kind of what I suppose one of the outcomes of that workshop was to find this new way of working. So maybe some people that have kind of come to previous webinars will be a little bit more versed. They would have seen a version kind of this slide before. So it's basically, we've got all the colleagues on the left-hand side who are in the team, obviously led by Rachel, who's there in the middle. It's a relatively similar kind of setup in terms of the number of touch points that we have each week, kind of bringing all of the team together. But there are a couple of key differences, aren't there, Rachel, from this model for Moreton-In-the-Marsh and Stow-on-the-Wold relative to our other pilots in South Lichfield and Staple Hill. So could you run through those kind of key differences quickly?
Yep. So we've got income, which I understand it is an additional to the core team. And again, I think we were quite lucky because a lot of the collaboration on the ground was already there. The income was already working closely with the neighbourhood coaches. But income being a part of the core team and having the updates and feeding in things, they're in and out of customers' homes too. So they might pick something up, and then rather than passing it to the neighbourhood coach to then pass it to someone else, it just makes they can move things through, as I was saying, much quicker. We've also got Joe from the investment side of things, because Joe might touch on it a bit later, but because some of our stock is quite old, investment is I think a critical piece of the puzzle. And also, I think it benefits what we're doing because we've got his insight and his, but also it benefits them because they're often, looking at the property side. Obviously, they always have the customer in the forefront, but to hear things firsthand from either the customers direct or from colleagues direct, it just brings things to life that bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, obviously we've got Joe on the call with us, so we'll hear about perhaps some of those opportunities that we've identified in these early stages in just a moment. But if I come back to you, Steve, for hopefully something you're a bit more prepared for this time, to talk about some of the opportunities in your role as a neighbourhood coach. So could you start off just by, again, for others who may not know, what is a neighbourhood coach? What is your role within Bromford and within the community? And yeah, talk us through these case studies up on the screen here.
Hi again, everyone. So neighbourhood coaching then at Bromford to start off with. Thanks for that introduction, Mark. So we are the frontline colleagues. So in most other organisations, I guess the similar role would be a housing officer. We decided many years ago to take, what do we mean by that? It means it's all about the conversations that we have with our customers using a coaching model, using those questions, to really, as you said at the top end of this presentation, really make that a person-focused interaction with every interaction that we have with our customers. So for me, and I'm really passionate about coaching outside of Bromford, I'm an accredited coach, so I use skills directly for this role. I want to talk really in case study one about what I will characterize as Ben's story. He's one of my customers, one of my new customers. I first met Ben about a month ago at a home visit. This is for those people who are not in housing. This is where we go out to where our customers currently are, and then we take all of those details to assess their suitability after they've nominated to us. So Ben was currently homeless, and I don't know about many colleagues that I work with in housing. Most of the time we come to work in housing because we want to house people in housing need. This is certainly one of the huge motivations for myself. So Ben was in a homeless situation where he was housed in temporary accommodation with his 13-year-old daughter, having just got custody after a relationship breakdown. So a really situation for him. He was very keen to move into the accommodation that we were offering. At the viewing, through the coaching model, through the conversations that I was having with Ben, and over each one of those touch points, I was kind of building up more of a relationship with him as a person. I came to understand that he was actually a painter and decorator, and the property that I was viewing with him, that he was donated to, needed a lot of painting and decorating, put it that way. And our void team, who were really on it in terms of getting the turnaround for each property, I realised quite quickly it would be really beneficial to tap into some of Ben's skills, because this was a win-win situation. He needed to and wanted to get out of temporary accommodation quickly. If we can imagine sharing a one room travel lodge, I understand, with a teenage daughter, which was his situation, clearly for both of them, getting them into a one bed flat as quickly as we could would be beneficial for him. And so I quickly was able to speak to our void surveyor and say, look, if he does his own painting and decorating, and the answer was obviously, of course, let's do that. Let's utilize those customer skills, of which he was happy to do. It's a win-win for us. We knock a few days of our void turnaround times, and he gets out of temporary accommodation and gets to, give a home for himself and his 13-year-old daughter. So that was Ben's story. Rachel and I are going to go and follow up with him in about 5 weeks' time. I had a quick chat to him last week, actually, and just checked in that I could share his story, of which he was obviously happy to do so. And he's just completed that decoration. He's very happy in that flat, and we shaved some days back ETE time. So our void colleagues are obviously really happy with that. So that was case study one. And like I say, that's really Ben's story right from the front line there. So the next thing really is I've been working, obviously Rachel has touched on how much of the deep dive she's done with the data. We wanted to have an event based at our over 55s scheme at Jameson Court in Moreton. It's in the centre of my patch, but it's much wider than that. We've created some flyers and that's gone out to the wider community. You might say, well, what's different about that? It's really based upon the data that Rachel has been researching. We know, especially in my patch, the demographic is slightly older, and we have a low uptake of the digital offer that we have. So we really want to use this event to, we've got some colleagues coming to help my customers or whoever attends to access our digital offer. So that's really targeted through the work that Rachel's done in getting an understanding of where our digital offer is at. We've got the police coming to this. So I know from the visits I do and the coaching conversations I have that customers are really concerned about community safety. So we've got the police coming, they're going to do the community safety piece with us. And we've got our customer involvement team who formulate with us, based on the data that we've collected, a questionnaire for all of our customers to do that's going to further inform the based services that we're going to offer. So that event's on the 8th of July. Again, we've got tea and cake, the usual sort of things that we might have to kind of invite our customers in. But what's different about this is really the sort of background work that's been done in terms of the data, and then how we can use that data to enhance the services that we offer. So, yeah.
Brilliant. Thanks, Steve. Let's move on, talk about the other kind of key point of difference in our team, which is an investment colleague as part of the core team, which, as we mentioned earlier, is a key point of difference for this pilot. So, Joe, I'll let you introduce yourself and kind of how does your job role kind of fit into the team?
Yes, thanks, Mark. So, first of all, my name is Joe Plews, obviously working in the home investment team in Gloucestershire, but currently covering pretty much the whole of Gloucestershire. Recently joining the Place group as in a supporting role of the Place group to see how I might be able to input and help the team with any sort of investment related queries. It's been a really interesting piece, getting to know colleagues on the ground a little bit better. There's such a variety of different problems and things coming together within Place, and it's been great to see how they've been dealt with. Within home investment, today I've been managing the cyclical paint and repair contract along with numerous other investment projects. Wider through investment, we've got colleagues who manage roofing, insulation works, anything to do kitchen, bathroom upgrades, heating. It all falls within the Gloucestershire home investment team. On to a couple of comments really about the age of our stock. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about that, really. Our stock profile is made up of lots of different types of assets. We've got a lot of our stock was transferred over from Cotswold District in 1997, and we've had it and obviously expanded on that portfolio since. We've got post-war properties, we've got traditional builds, we've got system-built properties, and then very much more recently we've got some C properties, so modern methods of construction. And a great example of this is actually a scheme that is in Moreton-In-The-Marsh in the Stockwells. We've got some 28 new homes built modular off-site in a factory up in Yorkshire, delivered and installed in very rapid pace on site, and that they were delivered to us last year. Net zero homes with extremely efficient. A large proportion of our stock, as I say, is the stock was transferred over from Cotswold District Council, and sort of tying in with the rural side of our stock. We're in the villages, we've rural location, high exposure. There's no gas. A lot of rendered properties with very small cavities, so insulation and efficiency is really something that we're trying to improve on. The 5 themes that we're really looking at is homes that work for customers, place that they can thrive, place that's safe and sound, affordable and sustainable, and sort of delivers community and well-being for our customers to achieve all of those things. On top of that, a big part of what's going on at the moment is the inefficiency that we've got around this housing stock. There's a big piece of work going on with the SHDF, which is the Social Housing Decarbonisation Fund works, really looking to offset those inefficiencies with investment that can help customers thrive, whether that's external wall insulation onto properties, solar systems that offsetting that expensive electricity cost, heat pumps, that sort of thing. So there's not a one size fits all for our properties. Every area, every type of property, every different construction type might need a different solution. But I'm very proud to work within home investment and see the things that are being delivered. You can see that when you're out and about in these areas, particularly at the moment with this investment being delivered.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. And I'll come back to you with one quick question. I'll give you a little bit of time to think about it. But if you were going to think of kind of one quick win or kind of one unexpected benefit of being brought closer to the team, what would that be?
I think really what I've noticed is having the team together, having the regular meetings, it's really brought any live problems, being able to get that quick turnaround on an issue. I've seen increased collaboration as a team and accountability as well. I think sometimes when we're part of a larger company, teams based all over the geography, I think when you've got a localised approach to it, the accountability is much improved on site. From my point of view, I've been able to be sort of the link in advising and getting people to talk to the right people within the company. I think there's been a certain level where things have bogged down and got stuck, and actually it's needed somebody to come in and go, right, this needs to go over here. This is how we achieve that. And really been able to grease the wheels within the Bromford machine, really, to try and speed up and resolve issues that we've got. We're only in the early stages of this particular placed pilot, and the other pilots are very different to this pilot. So we're still sort of putting together the things we're looking to achieve, really. And then obviously there's the overall wider scope of things that we're looking to achieve that really need collaboration with our customers and what they're looking for in their place.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that kind of the opportunity to build kind of in the future kind of place-based investment plans with input from customers is a really exciting kind of potential opportunity. We are going to skip straight to Q&A, and therefore we're going to kick off with one question which comes from Catherine White. I'll come to you first, Rachel, and perhaps Steve, if you've got any other thoughts, then do add them. What does a place-based model look like from a customer's perspective? How is it any different to deal with you as a place-based team than it was before?
So I guess it differs. So as I say, in the first few weeks, I wanted to do the discovery phase, and that included looking at data. And I identified quite early on that, our data was good. We probably do our annual review. So we see our customers in their homes at least once every year. And we do all ask kind of, we have coaching conversations. our data wasn't great. So it was good, but it wasn't great. So now, from pretty much the second week, the neighbourhood coaches have started to have place-based questions in their annual reviews. So they're opening conversations now with them, saying, what's it like living here? What are your challenges? What's good? What's bad? And everything in between. And then we can pull reports. So we can filter it to village, we can filter it to the full area, we can filter it to demographics of the customers. And we can, where's the doctors? Where do they work? Where are the schools? We can really build this rich data so we can really understand our customers for that local place. Going back to what Steve was saying about the event that we're having in one of our schemes as well, we're going to really draw that information, because at the moment our model needs to come from the customer voice, and until we have a really great understanding rather than just a very basic overview of what we think the customer voice is, we don't know. In terms of how they interact with Bromford, it's similar. It's kind of through our neighbourhood coach. We have a very much, it's a one contact, so they don't usually go through the contact centre. They can go straight to the neighbourhood coach if they have queries. They've got their numbers. So that strong relationship with the neighbourhood coach and customer is still very much there. It's just we are opening our conversations wider than just customer to place and community.
Yeah, I just want to pick up on something you said there, Rachel, as well, which is that, building on that relationship between the customer and the neighbourhood coach. I wonder if, Steve, have you noticed when customers do lean on you for that relationship to find things out, get stuff done, have you noticed a difference in the way that, we can deliver for those customers?
Absolutely. I think that's a really central point. So something that we've perhaps all touched on just now is that internal collaboration. So for us at the front line, it's, we build those conversations with the customers, and then anything that other colleagues can do to remove barriers for us to be able to get to fulfill what it is that the customer wants within our role then is really going to be absolutely key. So the first case study, Ben's case study that I touched on, it's quite a small thing, but it was something that I felt because of that first meeting we had, because I knew that our voids manager, I knew that they were these kind of things and what we could do in terms of it's all about flexibility. We on the front line as neighbourhood coaches feel empowered through place to be flexible with the customer, and it comes back to the top end of this meeting around really listening and being a person-centered approach to what the customer is saying. So Joe touched on, which I know we've talked about internally, Joe's been a revelation for us in terms of being able to tap into those kind of questions that we get on a day-to-day basis around stock condition and things like that. So feeling empowered, knowing locally who to go to, absolutely crucial for us. It makes it easier for us to be able to allow our customers to thrive.
It's important for us to reflect on as a business as well, isn't it? It's sometimes not just difficult for our customers to find out the information that they want to. Sometimes it's even difficult for us as colleagues to work out the information or get the information out that we need to from the business, knowing who to go to, that kind of thing. Where's the information held? So yeah, that's a big part of why place-based working has come together. There's another question, staying with you, Steve. You mentioned something called a patch earlier that you look after. How many customers are you coaching on your patch? How many homes is that?
Great question, whoever put that in. So at Bromford, when we launched our coaching approaches a number of years ago now, there were optimal numbers for this, which are significantly lower than perhaps across the sector. At the moment, on average, it's about 200. So my patch is actually about 220 because I took on some. But what we find, what that allows us to do is have a very closer relationship with our customers. Pretty much know all of my customers. I've certainly seen them as a very minimum once in a year period as we do our annual reviews and our tenancy questionnaires. I've worked for organisations in the past where, perhaps a housing officer might have 1,000, you're firefighting all the time there. So Place really does lean into this earlier kind of Bromford model of having smaller patches, but having quality conversation. So yeah, between 175 and about 230-ish.
Yeah, and that's number of homes, isn't it? And then there'll be
that's number of homes, yes, sorry. And of course, that's across all tenures as well. You mentioned tenure earlier, so we do have a little bit of shared ownership, not much in the area. Shared ownership might have some mostly social rents, but some affordables as well.
Brilliant. Thanks, Steve. And that question came in from Dawn, so I should have said that. So thank you, Dawn. And maybe if I come to you, Rachel, because I know that you speak, fairly regularly with the other team leaders across the other base pilots that we're running. Question come in from Ashley. Have you found any challenges in common with other place-based team leaders?
I think some of the common challenges have been some of, like, again, the blockages. So where things just don't manage to get over the line somehow, they get kind of stuck. So, for example, there may be something that's come through, a repair, for example, and then it's required more than a repair. So it's deemed that maybe a new kitchen is required. So then you've got your day-to-day repairs, and then that then requires investment to then get involved. And then there could be a delay with that transaction. So then a complaint comes in. So then you've got then customer solutions. So you've now got kind of various different teams. That still exists, but again, because we've got the benefit of having investment, for example, we're finding that challenge for us is now becoming a bit easier because we've got Joe in the team. Some of the differences, for example, is given Staple Hill, they've got a lot more kind of common areas. So they've got lifts, they've got bin areas, they've got big green areas that we maintain. Our areas don't have those as such. We don't have the lifts, we don't have the bin areas quite the same. So while Angela might be going in one direction, having to focus on that as a priority, our priority might be, as I was got touched on, home mobilisation, that the stagnancy. So we're definitely finding our unique challenges, but we are finding ones in common as well that we are communicating. And what will be really interesting is when Flagship come on board and start their pilots in the east, it will be even more interesting to see if our challenges or opportunities and everything in between are similar, different. And yeah, as I say, that's when conversations get really insightful, especially from Bromford, looking at strategy and looking at procedures, policy. How does the different voices and the different communities feed into those?
Fantastic. Yeah, no, that's a great summary and a great segue to kind of bring this to a close. So thank you very much to everybody on the panel, to Rachel, to Steve, to Joe, and to Paul. So just to say that we have started up a LinkedIn discussion group to talk about all things place-based working. We'll be posting some updates, some kind of thought leadership pieces and things like that. And we encourage everybody to join that, post things that you find interesting, get involved in the discussion. That would be great. If that's something that interests you, we've got podcasts, we've got articles and other kind of bits of research. That's really interesting too. So the only other thing left to do is to say thank you very much for coming. We will be running another webinar, and you can directly sign up for that now. Scan that QR code, should take you to a website to go and sign up for the next one on the 11th of July. That'll all be about kind of across our geography, predominantly in the west, so kind of Gloucestershire, Birmingham, down to Bristol. Where are our places going to be? We've got some pilots. Where are the rest of the other place-based teams going to be? So thank you all very, very much for coming, being part of the discussion. I look forward to welcoming you to the next webinar. Thank you.